Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Ethos Online. Again, this is a space where we can be, belong, and become the very best version of ourselves. So, again, wherever you're joining us, we want you to know you're welcome. This is a safe space. And I often get a lot of emails from people, and they'll say, I agree, I disagree. This is fascinating. What about this? Please keep those emails coming. That is so much fun for me to see where people go with it, what hits home, what doesn't. Even responding to some of those questions, it's so much fun to carry on these conversations about such a beautiful ancient piece we call the Bible. Right? So email me, Tony, WUERFEL at gmail.com, and send me any of those questions that come up. Anytime something connects, doesn't connect, whatever, I'd love to hear from you. That is so much fun for me just to interact with all of you as we move through these beautiful texts. And so we've been moving through the book of Genesis. And again, many people will tell me, how long are you going to be in this book? And I tell them, as long as it takes. Because usually a rabbi, when they move through a book like Genesis, they're dedicating 6 months to at least 2 years, right? This is a very long process, which each one of these books, because every single word, the tense, the various meanings, the different places it's found throughout Torah, all of it carries with it a lot of deep significance and just a lot of time to study. And so when we take apart and we look at like 3 or 4 verses, that's actually it's a load of work. And so that's what we do here at Ethos Online. We move through these deep discussions. We look at all these elements in really deep, culturally relevant ways. We ask the question, what did it mean then, so that we can understand what it means now? That's the point. And so Genesis, again, we understand Genesis. This book is part of Torah. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Those 5 books of what we call in Christianity the Torah, right? The Old Testament. But we know these books were, there were more books added, all of this. But the first 5, these pieces were all put together around 587 BC when Israel is taken captive by the Babylonians. And so the Babylonians, they march them hundreds of miles on feet, right? They get there. Again, they notice all the other empires. We've talked about this over and over again. But again, the reason we talk about it is because this is the reason it's being written. The reason it's being written is not to write a historically sound document so they don't forget all of the minor details of all the right names and the dates, the times, the sequence of events. That was never the point. The point was to ensure that they remember who they are as a people. And so they tell their stories, not perfect set in stone stories, right? They tell stories to remind them of their identity so that they don't assimilate. So again, Torah is written as in a response to the fear that they're going to assimilate. They're going to forget grandma's awesome, bread recipe. They're going to forget the things that make them Jewish. That was the point. And so when they would bring out the Torah, it would be a celebration because this is our identity as a people. That was the idea of Torah when it was brought out. And so again, Torah was a combination of poetry, mythic stories, right? They all knew when they would read some of these stories about these mythic legends, very rarely did they take them as literally true. They would take them as, yes. What does this say about Israel, about our past, who we are as a people? That's what it said, right? And so prophetic musings, warnings, all of it is a part of these first 5 books, right? And again, so Torah is a complete narrative of Israel miniaturized through his tellings. So again, every time you picture, Noah, Moses, Elijah, David, all of these different individuals, remember you're looking at the nation of Israel. It's how they saw themselves in the world. And so they're flawed characters many times, right? They're characters that go through the same struggles that Israel goes through, right? They're in brokenness, captivity. They cry out. They escape from captivity. They move into freedom. They wander the wilderness. All of these things you'll see Israel did them, and so will all of their heroes, because the heroes are Israel miniaturized. That's the idea there. Yeah, it's beautiful. And so today we step into chapter 7. we're moving along, right? We just finished chapter 6, so we're moving into chapter 7. We're only going to look at 3 verses today. And again, the reason we only move through those 3 is because there's a lot of really deep relevance here. So again, Noah. Noah is the individual. He steps into the picture. He's the messianic archetype. Noah steps in. He's about to bring his people into a place of rest, right? Rest before the storm, and there's going to be order and life brought in the middle of all of the chaos. And so Noah is the messianic archetype that's going to step in and begin to usher that in, just like Moses, Abraham, Joshua, all of these other characters later, they'll do the very same thing because that's what a messianic archetype will do. And so let's read this together. And the Lord said to Noah, "Come into the ark, you and all your household, for it is you that I have seen as a righteous man before me in this generation. Of all the clean animals you shall take for yourself 7 pairs, a male and its mate, and of the animals that are not clean, 2, a male and its mate. Also of the fowl of the heavens 7 pairs, male and female, to keep seed alive on the face of the earth." So this one, again, it's so fast to me. I used to read the Bible like this. I would just read it over and I'd kind of skip past, right? You kind of skip past this. Okay, yeah, 7's brought up, got it, the ark again. Perfect, right? There's going to be a flood. Let's get to the good stuff. But remember, there's that all of these pictures, all of these words, they have deeper meanings. So remember, ark. This idea of the ark is really, really heavy. For Israel, when they think of the ark, it's the same word as basket. It's the same word used in the story of Moses. Yeah, because in the stories, you have the hope of this generation, the hope of this nation inside of this vessel. It's preserving the identity of who Israel is. And so the ark, again, is this beautiful picture of like, this is the thing that we're going to hold all of it in. And this is why many people, when they read, many rabbis, they will connect ark, basket with Torah. Right? Like that's so heavy. Because Torah is the embodiment, right? It's the identity of Israel. And so that's how they view the story. The ark, the basket, it's what holds Israel's identity there. And so the ark is a really, really important element of this story. It's the thing that's going to hold Israel's identity. Yeah, it's really, really heavy. And in this picture, right, in this epic narrative, this huge metaphor, what you have there is the hope of humanity is carried in this vessel. And again, anyone reading this that's Jewish knows immediately direct connection to Torah. Torah is the hope of humanity for the Jewish people. Right? No wonder we should take it so seriously. So here we go. It continues. For it is you I have seen as a righteous man. The word righteous. I have heard this word used so many times in Christian churches. I've used it in front of on pulpits. The word righteous used to, for me, and many of you, it used to mean this idea of like, I am good and this person is bad. I am righteous and they are unrighteous. I'm doing all the right things, right? I'm saying all the right things. I'm wearing all the right things. I'm eating all the right things. I am good. You're bad. Righteous, right? I am not sinful. You are sinful, right? I'm clean. You're bad. This is the idea that many people have gotten of righteousness, and you can do certain things to be more righteous or not, right? This is a huge step away from what the Hebrew word means. The Hebrew word here is tazik. And there's always a beautiful picture here, right? There's always a deeper metaphor. There's always, with the Hebrew words, there's this mental picture you get. And the picture is, again, they're nomadic people, tribal people. They're moving often. And so for them, tazik is the path. It's the path. And that's a really interesting word coming from a nomadic tribal people. It's the direct path, right? That takes you from point A to point B. It's the path that's going to be the most direct. And it's not always, Leo and I were talking just a little bit ago, it's not always straight. It's not always the perfectly straight way. It's the way that's going to lead you there the best, right? It's going to be the most direct way for you. And so, again, for ancient nomadic people, it's the path that we travel that's going to be the very best. It's going to preserve life well. And so, a righteous person is someone who is walking their path, right? Their path. We could go hours on that, just that alone. That you know your path, you know your values, you know your passions, you know the things in your life that bring life, and you choose to walk that honestly with integrity and intention, and you walk that path. And you choose not to stray, right? Not get distracted, not to lead off in some other direction that's going to move you away from your vision statements, right? Move you away from the things that bring you happiness and joy. You choose to stay on that path. And when you choose to stay on that path, when you choose to intentionally walk it and walk it well, not to get distracted, you are a righteous man and woman. Yeah, that's the idea. I'm choosing to walk the path with integrity and do my best to stay on the path. It's not about doing right or wrong, it's learning to guide yourself, to steer yourself in the direction toward life. And as long as you're moving forward, right, you're doing the right thing. Right? You're doing the very best you can on your path that might be different than someone else's path. All of this is very Hebrew. It's the way they understood righteousness. And so again, consider that in our time today, the word righteousness it's just been robbed of its beauty, of its context, of its culture, of its meaning. Righteousness has become something really simplistic, where the truth is it's a really heavy, beautiful, beautiful concept. And so, again, righteousness, when you think about this, Noah is found to be righteous. He's walking the path toward life, which means many people during that era are not walking the path toward life. Yeah. And so it continues. We'll get into this weird idea here. And most people during this time era, right now in the 20th century, we don't know anything about this. We're kind of like, what? Clean, unclean? What does that mean? Unless you grew up Jewish, Adventist, Worldwide Church of God, this doesn't mean a lot to you, right? This is kind of weird stuff. And so I'll try to explain this as best I can. Of all the clean animals, you shall take for yourself 7 pairs, a male and its mate, and of the animals that are not clean. And again, clean, unclean? Like, what is this all about? Like, why are there clean and unclean animals? And let's think about this. If there are unclean animals that aren't suited for, like, they're evil, right? They're bad, why preserve their life? Right? If a pig is bad, if it's evil, why would you put it on the ark? Yeah? Think about that one. Again, it's all weird when we get too literal with the story. But let me move through. For the Hebrew people, Jewish people, everything had a deeper metaphor. And they were constantly borrowing from, like, the natural kingdom, right? So they looked at animals, and there's some interesting ideas here. Again, sacrificially, they would offer certain things. And again, they saw themselves in the sacrifice. So if I believe myself to be pure, good, holy, whatever, I'm walking the path well, I'm going to pick animals that fit something that I think is clean and good, and it has like a positive kind of ring to it in our world, right? It's the stuff you like to eat, whatever. I'm offering that to the gods. I'm not offering the gods a snake, right? I'm not offering the gods a snail, unless I really like snail. I'm probably offering them the things I like the most, right? Yeah, so think about that as we move through this. So for them, they have distinctions, clean, unclean. So there are certain birds to eat versus birds that scavenge. And so, hey, Turkey Day, right? You just had Turkey Day not that long ago. Turkey, chicken, those kind of animals, good, right? Considered clean, the kind of animals that they would like to eat, right? But then you look at scavenger animals, right? You've got like vultures and other animals that just eat off the dead. Not exactly the kind of animal that you would think like, virtuous animal, right? There's a reason why in cartoons, the vulture is not like the virtuous animal. It's usually the animal that they like, he is the villain, right? The anti-hero. It falls perfectly with this, right? The virtuous animals. Yeah, interesting to think about. going through insects. Like they even viewed insects. That again, so much. Leviticus is just filled with this stuff, right? And so when you look at Leviticus 11, I believe, you have different insects with like jointed jumping legs, and those were okay. So you have John the Baptist who's eating locusts, right? Grasshoppers, those were okay. But when the legs are without joint, without joint and jumping legs, then you don't eat them. And again, it's looking at what those animals eat, right? You decide the animal eats this. This animal eats that. Ugh, I don't want to eat that animal. Do you guys kind of see where it's coming from? This animal would be virtuous. That not so much, right? This is what they're doing when they're deciding clean, unclean. They're not literally getting a message from their God saying, "Hey, listen, I'm not about to eat that moth. Don't give me that moth. A grasshopper." No, right? That gets a little weird. Even like animals, right? Some mammals. So you had ones that chew the cud and had like the parted hoof. Those were animals that you could eat. So like deer, lamb, cow, right? Those animals, livestock, right? And again, good for eating. And I think anyone that's ever had those is not a vegetarian or vegan. You would admit those are probably pretty good. And that's why everyone says, oh, yeah, alligator. Well, it tastes like chicken. You have alligator. Not quite like chicken, is it? Because chicken is pretty good, right? And so anything that doesn't chew cud or have parted hooves, they considered bad. And often those were like scavenger animals. So like a pig, right? Eats anything, rolls around its own filth. That to the Hebrew was like the most unvirtuous animal alive. And so they would look at the pig as like the worst of the worst. You don't eat pig, right? Because they did not see themselves as pigs, right? They wouldn't offer up a pig, an animal they did not think was virtuous, to their God, right? So thus they wouldn't eat it either. Do you guys see how ritual and custom and culture all play a part in this? Yeah, fascinating. Even like the animals in the water. So anything with fins and scales, good. And again, I would argue most of the food I've had that's seafood, there's a reason I don't have to have a ton of butter and like salt and everything else to cover like trout or salmon or those kind of things. A little bit of lemon and salmon's great, right? To make shrimp taste decent, you got to put a lot of stuff on that crap. I'm just saying. To make lobster good, most people I know that eat lobster will admit it doesn't taste that awesome without just a pound of butter. And again, they were the scavengers of the sea, right? The lobsters, the shrimp. So anything without fins or scales, they would argue those are like the dumpsters of the sea. And so not a virtuous animal, not what we picture ourselves as. So again, there is deep metaphor going on here when they're looking at clean and unclean. And then there's also the layer of what do we give our God? A virtuous or an unvirtuous animal? Yeah, it's heavy. And so all of that said, let's go back to the Noah story. It's talking about clean and unclean animals. Now, the question, of course, is this. Genesis is the first book. Then Exodus, right? They go through the story of Moses and Israel escaping Egypt, and going through captivity, then going 40 years in the desert, all this. And then you get to Leviticus. And so it's after the desert time. If you're going to take all this literally, chronologically, say that the Bible is literal history, well, it's not until after the Exodus, then, that Israel begins to put in place all of these ritualistic dietary laws. Leviticus, right? If you were to take it literally. So here's the question. Again, if we're looking at the Bible as a history book, and Leviticus is the third book of Torah, then how would Noah have known what is clean and unclean? Yeah, again, it wouldn't have made much sense, would it? Unless, of course, you understand this is not to be taken literally. This is a group of people who are in Babylon, and they're attempting to hold onto their identity. And all of it, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, all of it are part of their story, who they are. And so again, they're going to insert little things here and there. It's the same reason why Adam, right? And Eve and Cain and Abel, right? They're giving clean, unclean sacrifices, all of it. They're giving sacrifices. Why would you give a sacrifice? Well, the whole thing, if you begin to take that super, super literally, it gets a little weird and it gets disjointed. But the point, of course, is something far deeper. Look at one rabbi says this: clean and unclean was really a deeply Hebrew concept of learning how to keep the culture of the Hebrews Hebrew. Rituals and practices were all created in attempts to keep them separate in ritual practice and cultural standing. So I'm going to say this: eating a pig, if you choose to have bacon, right? If you choose to have bacon, it's not a sin. I said it. Yeah, it's not a sin, right? It's not as healthy as turkey bacon, right? And if you cut bacon completely out of your diet, you'd probably be doing better, right? Around your waistline. Got it. Totally agree. But to eat bacon is not a sin, especially, and it's not literally evil, right? Especially to someone who is not Jewish. However, if you take the idea, if you are a Jew, and you understand the metaphorical idea and the value you have given a pig, right? And you see yourself as this and not the pig, this pig would be an absolute reminder of what I don't want to be in the world. I don't want to be a scavenger. I don't want to be gluttonous. I don't want to take more than I need, right? If you are a Jew, the pig is a constant reminder of what you don't want to be in the world. And so when you eat the bacon, when you see the pig, it does something to you, doesn't it? And this is why the rules for them were created. It wasn't literally that, oh no, I ate a piece of bacon. Now I'm no longer going to be able to be, within my standing. And I'm, if you believe in like heaven, hell, all of that, I'm going to go there, not there. No, like never the point there. Not the point at all. To a Gentile, eating pigs would be simply just a preferential thing. For a Jew, it's because of the metaphorical deep meaning and the value that they put on what that pig meant to them. Yeah, now it makes sense. Yeah. For a Jew, they are a people set apart. And this is interesting to consider, especially in relation to us, right? They set themselves apart from the things that bring brokenness. And so death, all of those things that bring death, pain, brokenness, destruction, they are a group of people they believe they've been set apart from that for a greater purpose. And so this is why Deuteronomy, you'll see verses like this over and over again. It's a theme. You'll see, out of all of the peoples on the face of the earth. Now, again, is this true or not? I would say, if you're writing the story, it's true to you. Right? And so for the Jews, this is how they viewed themselves. Out of all the people on the face of the earth, the Lord has chosen you to be his treasured possession. So again, they believed they were a people set apart. They were not going to be pig-like, right? They were going to be lamb-like. Yeah, that's really pretty beautiful. I'm not going to look like a pig in the way that I interact with the world. I'm going to be lamb-like. I'm going to follow the directions of the divine. I'm going to be this beautiful sacrifice, this beautiful gift to the world. That's how they chose to see themselves, set apart. And this is why, of course, the lamb is the ultimate sacrifice for the Hebrews. It makes sense, right? And then it ends with this, and I find this number really interesting. This is a very Jewish number. It brings up the idea 7 pairs, right? And oftentimes in the storybooks, you'll see like there's only 2, right? There's 2 of this animal, 2 of this. If you're going to get the story correct, you're going to see like 7s, right? More 7s than 2s. But why the 7, right? Why do we have this number 7 again at this ark story? Well, 7 is super important if you're Jewish. This idea of 7 is the metaphorical Hebrew number for perfection. And again, not perfection in the Greek way of like, I look perfect, nothing, no flaws, no anything. It's the closest thing that we can get to the divine. That's the idea there. It's the thing, it's walking in the very best possible path I can. Perfection, right? That's the Hebrew idea, not literally like the Greek one of like being perfect. No, no, no. It's walking the path you can as good as you can. It's seven. That's the idea of seven. It's set apart. That's the idea. It is a group of people set apart. And so think about this now, connected to the ark. So we have like a group of people now who are saying you have to be really intentional with what occupies the space, right? We have to be very intentional with what we allow inside that holy sacred space that's going to keep our values, our values, our culture, all of that. We have to be really intentional now with whatever gets inside of the ark. We have to be intentional with it. We want to make sure that the sevens are what takes up the majority of the space, right? It's a beautiful idea. Whatever takes up that space, there needs to be no room for the twos and the threes. If we're going to put everything in the boat, right? If I'm going to pack up my car with as much stuff as I can, my car's only going to hold so much. And so I don't have room for grandma's sweater she knitted me, when I was 17. There's no room for that. I need to pack what is most important. And this is what the Hebrews are saying here. We need to put what is most important in this space. We have to be intentional. And so there is only room for sevens. It's a beautiful idea. Sevens. I had a friend, painful story. He was driving his wife and their baby in the back seat, and they're in the car seat, and he's driving from a party, a late party they had been to. And as they're driving down the road, it's raining, just cats and dogs. It's raining so hard. And as he's driving, he's not going super fast. But as he's going, he does what sometimes happens. He hit a slick spot. And as he hit the slick spot, the car spun, and then it flipped once, twice, 3 times. It flips. And his wife and his child were thrown from the car. And he lost them that night. And my friend said he struggled and struggled for years with guilt and shame. He didn't want to live anymore. He went through so much therapy. And my friend did the very best he could. I remember one day we were talking, and I was talking about something stupid, all my dramas, right? I'm talking about how I was so frustrated with this person and how like this person had been attacking me, blah, blah, blah. My friend looked at me and he said, I get it. I said, I get it. Like that stuff can get in the way sometimes. He said, ever since the accident, he said, I have been purposely rebuilding my life again. And it's been such hard work. But he said, all I've been rebuilding and taking all of this time, I have been extremely intentional. I've been extremely intentional with what I allow in and what I take out. I only have been allowing the things that are bringing life inside that space. He said, I am choosing to be intentional with what comes in, what I spend my time with. I heard it and it hit home for me. And I've been slowly learning to live that too. Only allowing the most important, beautiful things in. The relationships that are going to fill life. The not just the relationships, but the projects, right? The things I choose to watch and read. I'm allowing those things in because those are the things that in the middle of the flood, those are going to be the things that are going to keep me afloat the most. If we fill our lives up with ones and twos and not sevens, in the middle of floods, in the middle of pain, in the middle of brokenness, it is so easy. It is so easy to go down with the waves. if I choose to intentionally keep the things that bring life inside that vessel, man, like I am floating and I'm going to make it through. It's beautiful. So, how do we take it home? Here's a couple ideas here for you to take home. How to be intentional with what we allow in. Number one, guard your time. There's a reason why people say waking up in the morning and looking at your phone is the worst habit to get into. Guard your time from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to sleep. Guard your time. It's really the only thing you have a lot of control over, right? Guard your time. When you say yes to something, right? When you say yes to something, you are inevitably saying no to something else, right? When you say yes to staying at work for another hour, you are saying no to spending time with your daughter. Say yes to the things you want to say yes to, no to the things you want to say no to. Guard your time. Number two, set your priorities. Ask what's really important. See how how much of it is being devoted to this and to that. Really set your priorities. Here are the things that are most important to me. And once you get those things, spend your time on those things. It's so simple, but it's so hard. Set your priorities straight and then actually put your intentions out there and spend your time on those things. Easier said than done, but it's important to know it should be a practice. Knowing, being aware of it is just a good start, right? Number three, be careful what you consume. So again, what you consume, whatever you take in is going to come out. So whatever media you're watching, eventually it's going to consume you. So why not consume the very best of the best? I've been waking up in the mornings, watching these inspiring YouTube videos and speeches. It's what I do in the morning. I'm trying to consume good things so that good things come out. And I think they do. I'm putting sevens in the vessel as much as I can. And then lastly, fill life with positivity. Right? There is so much negativity everywhere, right? No matter what perspective you're choosing, there's negativity everywhere. And so why not, from friends to media to food, why not fill it up with healthy options, right? Now more than ever, with everyone having to quarantine right now, why not put on the dinner plate some healthy options, right? With so much depression going on right now, why not watch some inspiring things on TV? Rather than posting a bunch of angry comments on social media, why not post some positive things? Yeah, I think you might find when you fill the ark, your basket, the vessel, your life with positivity, with sevens, you will find the journey is so much lighter, so much better. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. As always, please consider donating to ethos-church.org/donate. Again, that is a tax-deductible receipt that you'll get there when you join us on this journey. We continue to do Ethos Living Room sessions. It is so much fun. We come together online twice a month. And so if you want to join a community of people who are honest, authentic, loving people, who share space with each other every week, please consider joining us. Email me and I'll send you the Zoom link. And as always, click that subscribe button, hit the little bell, and you'll see us every week whenever we put out more and more of these videos, especially this one over Genesis has been so much fun. Everyone, take care and we'll see you next week.